When you combine adventure, farming, and dating sim, what do you get? Rune Factory. The game, once called a fantasy harvest moon, finally gets a new entry after about 10 years or so. The last game in the series I played was Tides of Destiny, and if I'm honest, it really wasn't my favorite. That award goes to Rune Factory Frontier. But today we're talking about Rune Factory 5, the game that gives this series a lift into the new era of video games. As with most Rune Factory games, your character has amnesia. You get the choice between a male or female protagonist and your new life begins. A little self-insert fantasy, I suppose. Your life in the village includes talking to your neighbors, building relationships, completing side quests, and farming. Relationships are probably the most valued thing in Rune Factory. The townsfolk keep this game feeling alive, and you can increase your friendship or love by talking to them every day, giving them gifts, and taking them on adventures with you. Gift giving is not so simple though, as everyone has likes and dislikes, so it's important to sort those out before you accidentally give someone a gift they don't like. Farming is your primary way to make money. As a tip now, turn off farm camera in the options, as it does nothing but make the experience jarring. The task of farming includes cleaning up your fields, tilling soil, planting and watering crops, and then picking them. It's a very simple system, yet it's rewarding and entertaining. You don't have to wait real-life time for your crops to grow, and it's not difficult to maintain overall. Various shops are run in town. You can see townsfolk running from their homes to their stores, and just around town in general during the day. It's a small touch that makes the world feel more alive. In these shops you can purchase various goods, expand your home, take baths, and much more. The best RPGs tie their mechanics together in some cohesive way. Rune Factory 5 ties together town life with dungeon crawling and fighting monsters. If you have strong enough bonds with the townsfolk, you can ask them to come on adventures with you. They'll assist in combat and toss you healing items every once in a while, though I'll admit their AI is not very good. Additionally, you will likely have to craft your own gear. If you purchase a forge and a crafting table, you can start increasing your skill levels early, so it'll pay off later down the line. Materials you get from defeating mobs will play a large role in this process, and you can also tame these monsters and have them assist you both on battle and in your farm. I think Rune Factory 5 does a pretty good job at tying these two parts of the life together. Before I move on to my own opinions some more, if you found this part of the review informative or helpful in your understanding of the game, consider hitting the like button or leaving a comment so I can further improve my future reviews. So enough with descriptive detail. How's the game itself? So personally, I found this game fun. The combat is simple yet satisfying, farming is a lot of fun, building relationships is cool to do, and the fact that character side stories are so easily accessible makes fleshing out your townsfolk easy. Of course, the main draw, according to this, is the marriage and relationships. Good news, same-sex marriage is a thing in this game. The bad news is your potential candidates for marriage are mostly limited to younger cast members, barring a few of these guys on the side. The primary problem with this game is its performance and presentation. You've heard it before, and you're gonna hear it again. Frame drops are common, so much so that it hurts. Walking outdoors, in the middle of combat, in tons of boss fights, the game just chugs along. And somewhere down the line, the designers decided to add portions where there are a metric ton of enemies spawning in, and the game really just can't clock it. Dungeon crawling has some mild depth to its puzzles, but it still suffers in the performance field. Additionally, some boss fights go pretty heavy on the visual particles, and it's sometimes a bit too heavy for the game's visual style. Some particles will make it hard to see, and others are just obnoxious. The game will blow itself out at every given opportunity. I've never experienced any crash on a Switch game before, but this game crashed twice in my 40-hour playthrough. I highly recommend rebooting before boss fights, as that seems to solve my issues. If you keep your skill levels in the right place, you won't run into any major problems during the game. It has adjustable difficulty for combat, but the combat also feels a bit rough at times. You can get knocked down and get the ever-living crap beat out of you, and it's frustrating not being able to get up as quick as most action games. Moving back a bit into the presentation side, the voice acting is very selective. All the VAs are good, but the lines and conversation will randomly be fully voiced, so you'll go from one fully voiced line to a generic grunt in the same conversation. While it stopped bothering me later in the game, it was pretty awkward early on. Additionally, sometimes I accidentally skipped the fully voiced lines as I read faster than they could start speaking. Furthermore, the fully voiced lines also range in volume, and this range goes from perfect to inaudible, which really hurts the presentation.
Just not a girly girl like that.
Music works, it's just not great. It doesn't have any tracks that I was jamming out to or anything, and the ambient noise played during the day when you're outside is kind of annoyingly loud. For example, when it gets to summer, you just hear this. I don't know why it's so loud. Could have lowered it a bit, and people probably would have been less bothered by it, but it sounds like it's blaring into my ears. I feel like the creativity of this game kind of falls off in the latter half. For one, while I know that this is just likely bringing back old monsters, the names go from cute puns to generic animal and mythical creature names. It's a bit sad since Elephun and Buffamoo are just a bit more charming. The story also kind of loses all of its potential by how it's presented. The game takes a tell not show approach, meaning most of your story beats are presented via exposition. The overall story is also pretty generic, and it's not that the ideas are bad, it's how the presentation is just really bland. It felt like it just fell flat compared to most modern JRPGs. Despite all this, I wouldn't call Rune Factory 5 a bad game. It's ultimately bogged down by issues of performance, and I don't think that the story itself is a big part of the game, just a piece of a larger puzzle. The majority of the game feels like a lot of love was put into it, but I can't overlook the glaring flaws either. A lot of this stuff would have been nullified by a performance update, either toning down particles, reducing shadows, whatever the solutions may be to getting better frame rates, maybe lower load times and less visual clutter. Unfortunately, while I'm not a big performance guy, a lackluster performance is still, well, lackluster. This game does a lot of stuff I like, but I can't fix the performance issues by purchasing it on better hardware or by tinkering with the graphics settings. Rune Factory 5 gets a tentative 5 out of 10 for me. The main pieces of the game really work, and they're enjoyable, but there are a lot of pieces that are either disappointing or rough around the edges. I enjoyed this game for what it was and will continue to enjoy it on my own time, but you need to keep in mind that there are a lot of pieces of this game that just don't quite fit together as well as you may like. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next week.
1, 2, 1, 2, here we go!